Hey guys. Yeah. That's annoying. Okay, guys. Waiting on a few people. We're about at 9. I'm expecting about 15 of you. I'm going to read quickly today. I got a million things going on. I decided to clean out the garage, and I have my entire garage out on my front lawn right now. Not good. So, hey, Preston. Great to see you here. Great to see Preston. Hey, Aaliyah. Riley. Sorry, guys. I'm just waiting for everyone to get in. My kids are all over the place. Ava. Hey, Ava. Got Dean. I got Adonis, Allie, Ava, Bobby, Christian, Dean, Aaliyah, Kira, Preston, and Ryan. Good numbers. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Real quick. Maddie Johnson, too. Sorry, Maddie. I think that's you chiming in right now. Just giving people a couple minutes to log in. I want to see Maddie C. is always here. Waiting for that green looking machine. He's not there. Somebody else just got in here. Julia Madonna. Hey, Julia. Kira, what was going on with you and the baseball knowledge? Oh, my goodness. It was unstoppable. What was that all about? Preston, you're new to this, just so you know. I just want to make sure you're clear. The sidebar is just for really discussion on after we get the hellos out of the way. The sidebar is just for questions school related. That's it. This is not, a chit-chat session and things of that nature. We got 13 pages to read today. Bobby, you too, 10 people. Thanks for the update. I was asking my parents for the answer in baseball. It was not easy. That was not an easy one. Very excited by the Neopage today. My son Jack's just being rude and loud. Okay, watch the stream. Oh, that's right, Preston. Thank you. Okay, real quick, I'm gonna just be clear with you guys. Every day, every morning, you're gonna get a math assignment, either a science or a social studies assignment, and possibly a writing one. We'll have the Neopods for a few days, and we do the read alouds. Guys, if any of this work is stressing you out, don't do it. Do what you can. I'm assuming if you do the social studies or a science and then the math and then the writing, it might take you about an hour and a half total to do it all. And then you have the rest of the day for yourself. And if you want to catch the Neopod, if you want to catch the read aloud, that's available to you. But don't feel like you have to do it. Make sure you understand that. Do the best you can. And I beg of you to read your directions. So many of you don't read. You just ask and you just comment and comment and comment. And you're not being accountable for what you need to be accountable for. You read the directions. After you read the directions, if you still have a question, then ask it. Okay? Today's math with the workbook pages was crazy. I mean, it was listed right there for you in the instructions. And again, they're not due today. I wanted to give you a couple days to do it. There was 22 questions. That's a lot to do. Some of you breeze through it because you know it. If you're struggling with it, it was a little harder. I don't want you to feel like you have to do it. I don't want you to feel that you can't do it. No one in the history of school has ever been in the situation that you're in. Nobody. So do the best that you can. And if sometimes the best that you can means I'm not doing work today, then that's how it goes. I can't have you being stressed. I want you to enjoy this. I want you to enjoy what we're doing, or make, yeah, enjoy is a strong word. I want you to make the best of it. That's your job. Don't let stress get you. Don't worry if you get something wrong. There's no grades, guys. There's nothing. I'm just, I like to keep you occupied. I want you to learn. I told you from the beginning of the year, you're not a grade. You're not a number. This is nothing proves it better than this. I love to learn. I love to teach you. I don't really care about the grade. I care that you understand something. I care that you ask questions when you're not sure about something. But if you're beating yourself up, or if you're feeling dumb, or, you're doing it the wrong way. And I feel some of us are putting us in that situation. You have to take a breath. You have to put it away. If mom and dad are there to help you, let mom and dad help you. And it's all good. It's all good. If you want to write me a note, which some of you are amazing with, Miss Cab, I handed in everything in. Everything's right. I got help on 3, 4, and 5. Phenomenal. Awesome. I'm a dad too. I don't like my kids handing things in wrong. So as long as the teacher knows, that's great. Let mom and dad help you if they're around. If they're not around to help you because they're working or they've got other kids that they're taking care of, do the best that you can. Good, Dean. Great question. Let me answer some of these. Okay, don't ask it 35 times though, Dean. I see it. If you miss an assignment, if it's late, nothing's going to happen. Nothing. Nothing happens. There's your answer. Mr. Kavanaugh, I didn't do it. I didn't hand it in. I didn't see it. I never finished it. Okay. Okay. I'm trying to teach you accountability. Do the very best that you can. But if you miss an assignment, you miss an assignment, guys. It's not the end of the world. I think you can ask any one of your friends on the side here. I haven't yelled at anybody. The problem is, what it comes down to is simple directions. When you do the assignment, but you don't hand it in because you don't click a button that says hand in, that's something you got to work on. And that's you doing directions. You understood the assignment. You did the assignment. You just didn't hand it in. Now that's silly. You got to follow it through. Okay. Let me see. Preston. Oh, what if we never finish? Dean, then you never finish. You're still going to 6th grade. You're still an A student. And none of this, if anything, this has shown me more about you than any grade could show me. So you get an A just for your effort. That's it. A new record. Is there extra help on the math? No, there's no extra help tonight. You take tonight off. We'll talk more about it on Monday. We're going to go very super slow, and don't stress it, Julia. If on Monday you still don't get it and mom has time, maybe have her give me a FaceTime call, and we'll do it that way. I don't want kids to feel like they have to go to extra help online, and I kind of want you to chill out. I think a lot of you guys are stressed out by it. So do the best you can. If you don't get it, put it away. On Monday and Tuesday, we're going to try to redo the same questions we did on Thursday, Friday. So we're not going ahead. We're going to be staying on these 2 lessons. And if you want to work on it, you can go to the IXL math. And that's only quite, if you go to the teacher recommendation, that's all that you're going to see there is those kind of questions. So practice those. Monday and Tuesday, we're going to do identical math. There's not going to be a new lesson. You're going to do identical math questions like that. And we're going to go that slow just so we feel comfortable. And if you're somebody, Miss Kavanaugh, I aced it. I know what I'm doing. Then don't do math Monday and Tuesday. You got it. There's no sense. If you know you have it, then don't worry about it. If you have trouble, it's okay. I don't want you to go to 6th grade either. My goal is, Christian, that we all celebrate 5th grade, as soon as we can together, and we enjoy every bit of it that we get. And I will promise you that whatever happens, we're going to make this year special one way or another. All right. I promise you that one way or another, we're going to do something. You guys heard about the parade on Tuesday? And I know some of your houses aren't marked off on there. Maybe mom or dad, you can hop in the car, keep your social distancing, and, pop on one of those blocks. And so we could see you as we drive by. It's going to be really pretty cool. Hope you could be a part of that. There's no work on Saturday, Sunday. Yard work, clean your bedrooms. Maybe make your own lunch one day for the family. That's your homework. That's it. That's your classwork. No reading, no talking. If you want to drop by to say hello, leave a message, that's fine. I'll get back to you. But we're going to shut the school books Saturday, Sunday. No read alouds, nothing. Everything's shut down. You go relax and enjoy it. Just want to see the middle school game at only 6th grade. I hear you, Lee. You're going to love the middle school, by the way, guys. You're going to love the middle school. Love it. Like beyond love. You're like, this is the greatest thing in the world. You got a lot of more freedom. You don't have Kavanaugh breathing down your neck every 2 seconds. Awesome, Julia. I'm not surprised at all. Right. A lot of houses aren't on the map. We just talked about it. Maybe you could get in the car and get to a place where you can, because I would love to see you. If you can't, you can't. You know, it is what it is. It's going to be on video. Somebody's going to put it on Facebook or FaceSpace and things of that nature, and you'll be able to see it there. Oh, no, I'm nervous, though. Bree, don't be nervous about the middle school. I mean, listen, everyone's going to be nervous. I'm nervous. First day of school, I'm always nervous. Don't be nervous. But accept that it's going to happen. And by day 4, Brianna, you're going to be running the middle school. Just make sure you guys sign up for lots of clubs, get involved, and get to know different people. That's important. Let's start reading. That's what we do. Preston, again, I tell you, do not tell me what to do, bud. We're going to go at our pace, okay, bud? You listen. You can sign out anytime you like. Okay, my house is not. I know, Matt. I talked to Mom today. I'm hoping that you guys can get on the route so we can see you guys. That's the key. When we read you too, Aaliyah, you got to work on your patience. Drive me crazy sometimes in your post. You're not reading. You're not looking at directions, and you're asking questions that I have the answers to. We'll read when I think all questions are answered on the side, and that's when we'll go. Sounds good? Christian, we talked about, I don't want to hear about your dietary habits. I'm glad it's grapes, though, not cookies. Okay, we look like we're good. Everything's answered. Everything's answered well. I love the emojis, Aaliyah. Not sure what that one means. That's just like, is that you giving me the eyes? Like, I know that look, Aaliyah. I know what look you're giving me. Had Oreos. Brianna gave me something. I don't know what that is. Okay, we're ready to go. 13 pages to read today. We're going to finish the whole chapter, if that's okay with you guys, because I don't want to end in the middle of a chapter when we're not going to read again until Monday. And that's how we go. On Google Classroom, can you put the streets that you were driving on for the parade? Yes, they are. It's in there already. You look at the highlighted route. It's the yellow. Any place that's yellow is where we're going. There's a whole map of where we're starting and then where it's like a parade route. It's on there already. Please look at it. Okay. All right. No more side chatter over there. Let's get to focusing on what we're talking about. Remember, Booth is staying at a house. Dr. Samuel Mudd's house. The cavalry is coming. They're about, who remembers how many hours away? Who remembers how many hours away they are? Remember? Approximately. Not 5, 7. Well done, Maddie. Maddie gets the prize. First one up. They're about 7 hours away. Okay, chapter 6. Edmund Stanton continued his investigation as Abraham Lincoln slept his last deep sleep at the Pedersen house. His brain was dead and beyond dreaming. By 4:00 a.m., Stanton was sure that he was dealing with a conspiracy. A conspiracy is when they think more than 4, 5, 6, 7 people planned this together. It was a conspiracy, just not a government conspiracy. Important that you remember that. The evidence found in Booth's hotel room included the mysterious Sam letter that seemed to predict the assassination. The recovery of this letter, which Booth had carelessly, perhaps on purpose, let fall into the hands of the manhunters, was obviously addressed to the actor by an unknown conspirator. Stanton read it and recognized that it was full of clues. Booth had at least 2 co-conspirators, one named Sam and one named Mike. Sam was in Baltimore. The assassination was premeditated, which means it was planned ahead of time. Assassination was planned ahead of time, planned before March 27th, and the Confederacy might be involved. They think, again, it's a government plot. At the Pedersen house, a doctor recorded statistics in the notes he kept, tracking the sad and inevitable deterioration of Lincoln's condition that night. 5 a.m. He's sleeping regular, but his respiration is at 28. 6 a.m. His pulse is fading. Respiration still at 28. 6:30 a.m. Breathing labored, still failing. So now it's 6:30 a.m. the next day. At the Pedersen house, Abraham Lincoln began his death struggle. Yeah, everything. Thank you, Preston. Everything was recorded in notes. They have everything is documented. The doctors were there. They were recording every single thing that was going on. The end was coming fast. Sergeant General Barnes placed his finger on the pulse in Lincoln's neck. Dr. Leo placed his finger on the pulse in Lincoln's wrist. Another doctor placed his hand over Lincoln's heart. The doctors and nearly every man in the room took watches out of their pockets. At 7:20 a.m., April 15th, 1865, more than once they thought Lincoln had passed away, but the strong body resisted death many times through the long night. Abraham took his last breath. His heart stopped beating at 7:22 a.m. It was over. The president was dead. He is gone. He is dead, one of the doctors said. The occupants of the room stood silent and motionless for a few minutes. Edmund Stanton finally spoke. He asked Reverend Gurley, Lincoln's pastor, whether he would say a few words. I will speak to God, replied the minister. Let us pray. He summoned up a few moving prayers, then murmured, Amen. Stanton broke his long silence. Now he belongs to the angels. So, respiration means Adonis breathing. How is he breathing? And it became labored, and it was a struggle just to get air into his lungs. And unfortunately, he took his last breath at 7:22. Stanton reached for pen and paper and wrote a single sentence. There was nothing else to say. It was the telegram that would transmit the sad news to the nation. Washington City, April 16th, 1865. Major General Dix, New York. Abraham Lincoln died this morning at 22 minutes after 7 o'clock. Edmund Stanton. This was actually what it looked like. That was the actual telegraph, how it was sent. Pretty cool. Reverend Gurley and Lincoln's eldest son, Robert, told Mary the news. She would not go to the room where Lincoln had died. She could not bear it. She never saw her husband's face again. Around 9 o'clock a.m., she left the Pedersen house for the White House. The room was empty of all visitors except Edmund Stanton. The morning light streaming through the back windows crossed Lincoln's face. Stanton closed the blinds, took a small knife or pair of scissors from his pocket, and bent over Lincoln's body. Gently he cut a generous lock of hair and sealed it in a plain white envelope. Stanton signed his name in ink on the envelope and addressed the envelope to Mrs. Welles. The memento was not for him, but for Mary Jane Welles, wife of Secretary of the Navy Gideon Welles, and one of Mary Todd Lincoln's few friends in Washington. In 1862, she had helped nurse Willie Lincoln, ill with typhoid fever until his death. Afterwards, she did double duty, nursing Tad Lincoln and caring for Mrs. Lincoln, helpless in her grief. Shortly thereafter, Welles' own son died of pneumonia. With that event, Mary J. Willis and Mary Todd Lincoln shared a loss that brought them even closer to each other. Okay, what happened there? Because it just kind of rambles on, not really important. But we know we don't love Stanton with the way he treated Mary Todd Lincoln. And then after Lincoln died, he went in and it was customary. They cut a piece of Lincoln's hair for history. He cut the hair for Lincoln, put it in an envelope, and sent it to Gideon Welles' wife because she was very close to Lincoln as well. You would think he would do it for Mary Todd Lincoln as well. That's her husband, but he didn't. Who knows why? But they sent that piece of hair to Miss Willis. I don't really have an answer why, other than they knew that they were very close and that she couldn't be there, and at least she can have a piece of Lincoln to remember. Pretty interesting, I thought. Here's the actual newspaper from those times. Let's take a look at it. That's the actual primary source newspaper of the, and it says he was shot at the theater. He died at 2 minutes after 7, which is wrong. It was 22 minutes after 7. The nation is in mourning. John Wilkes Booth is the assassin. And look at the bottom here. Look what this newspaper says. You see that? Death of Secretary Seward. You see how they had inaccurate information? You see, Preston? Julia, of course, his wife is closer to him, but she was there, and I think that's what Stanton said. He wanted to do something because that other Miss Wells couldn't be there, and Gideon Wells couldn't be there. That's why I'm guessing. That's how newspapers were, Bob. I don't know. They've changed over the course of time. It was blurry, yes, Christian, but it said, Secretary of State said, Brianna's right. It's false. False news in the newspaper. Not good. Okay, hold on. Mary J. Wells framed the cherished relic with dried flowers that had decorated Abraham Lincoln's coffin at the White House funeral. Stanton gazed down at his fallen chief and wept. So remember, he said Stanton didn't really have emotion. He was really a tough guy. But even the death of this great president brought him to tears that he broke down and cried at the body of Abraham Lincoln. It was time to take Lincoln home. Stanton ordered soldiers to transport the president back to the executive mansion. The men arrived with a plain pine box. It looked like a shipping crate, not a proper coffin for head of state. Lincoln would not have minded. He had always been a man of simple taste. This was the plain coffin of a rail splitter. The soldiers wrapped Lincoln in an American flag. They placed him in the box and screwed down the lid. The only sound in the room was the squeaking of the screws being tightened in the holes. The soldiers carried the coffin into the street and loaded it onto the back of a simple horse-drawn wagon. The driver snapped the reins, and the modest parade, escorted by a small group of bareheaded officers on foot, took Abraham Lincoln to the White House. Here's another article. No bands, drums, or trumpets, just the beat of the hooves and the footsteps of the officers. Lincoln would have liked the simplicity. All right, guys, enough with the emojis. Thank you. Thank you, Preston. Thank you, Dean. Enough. We got it. Vice President Abraham Lincoln was not present when Lincoln died. So the cabinet sent him an official notification of the president's death and of his succession to the presidency. Johnson agreed. Okay, Bob, next time I'm just going to mute you. Okay, bud? No more emojis. We're good. We get it. It was sad. Let's get our focus back, okay? Vice President Andrew Johnson was not present when Lincoln died. So the cabinet sent him an official notification of the president's death and of his succession to the presidency. Johnson agreed to take the oath of office at 11 o'clock a.m. in his hotel room at the Kirkwood House. Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Solomon Chase, and the cabinet members found Johnson grave, dignified, and deeply moved, given the tragic and unique circumstances of his elevation to the presidency. It was decided that it would not be appropriate for him to deliver a formal public inaugural address. So all that happened there was they had to swear in the new president. That's all they had to do. So they swore in the new president, which was President Johnson, who was supposed to be dead too, but wasn't. And so now there's a new president. And there wasn't going to be a big address because they thought the country wasn't ready to hear from somebody else. Though John Serrant, remember John Serrant? He's in Canada. He's getting the blame. We don't want that. Is the secretary's family the only people who knew he was alive? Good question, Julia. I'd say no, not the only people, but anybody in the area knew he was alive, just not within, if you were out of town, you didn't know because you read that he was dead. Very excited. Good questions, though. Good questions. Johnson was supposed to be dead, Christian, remember, because part of John Wilkes Booth's plan was to kill Johnson. But George Azurdat didn't do it. He didn't even go to his hotel room. He went to the bar, at the hotel bar, had a drink, and instead of going upstairs to kill Johnson, he left. He wasn't a part of it. So Johnson didn't realize was supposed to go, and he didn't go. And you guys got to remember, counting, Matty Johnson is listening another way. He doesn't come up on here, but he's there. Okay, so though John Serrant, remember John Serrant is in Canada, though they think he killed Seward. We talked about that. Both things are wrong. Serrant didn't do it, and Seward's not dead. Johnson didn't know, bud. He didn't know. He didn't know somebody wanted to kill him. So, no, he's not scared. He just doesn't know. He didn't know. He doesn't know until later. Though John Serrant was being sought by Stanton as one of Lincoln's assassins, he had not even been in Washington on April 14th. It's not his son, bud. Serrant is a friend. John Wilkes Booth didn't have children. John Serrant is a friend of John Wilkes Booth. That's right. They didn't know. There was no communication, so nobody knew. Okay, here we go. The morning Lincoln died, John Serrant heard the news of Abraham Lincoln's assassination. Afraid that his name might be connected with Booth, fled to Canada. Then he decided that fleeing to Europe offered him the best chance of survival. In Rome, Italy, he joined the Pope's army and eluded capture for a year. So John Serrant knew, when he heard that Lincoln was assassinated, he knew people would start blaming him. So he went from Elmira, upstate New York, to Canada, to Italy, and he joined the army in Italy. He did this to avoid any kind of capture. In Maryland now, we're back. Remember the 7-hour gap. In Maryland, Lieutenant David Dana of the 13th New York Cavalry followed leads he received from informants. Unfortunately, he was pursuing the kind of false leads that would come to haunt the manhunters in days ahead. Little more than an hour before Lincoln died, George Azurdat, now this is what I'm interested to tell you right here, rose from his humble room at the Pennsylvania House and left the hotel. As Azurdat walked along Booth's escape route just 2 blocks from Ford's Theater, he tossed his knife under a wood carriage step into the gutter. A few minutes later, a sharp-eyed woman looking out a third-story window in a building across the street saw it there. The clue, still in its sheath, was taken to the chief of police. So Azurdat was going to kill Johnson with a knife. He didn't do it. He left, he walked, but he didn't want to have the knife, so he threw it down a gutter. A lady from a third-story window saw him throw it, and she went down and got it and gave it to the government. And again, just a clue. Just a clue. From New York City came an offer to help. 12 hours after Stanton had asked the chief of police to send its finest detectives to Washington to help track the president's killer, Stanton also summoned Lieutenant Lafayette Baker, one of his favorites, to leave New York for Washington. Dean, he did that because he didn't want to get caught in town with a weapon on him. He didn't want to have a weapon on him. Because he doesn't know who, if John Wilkes Booth did this and it gets out, he doesn't know who's going to connect him to John Wilkes Booth. And if the cops stop him, he doesn't want to have a weapon on him. That makes him look guilty. So he got rid of it. All criminals get rid of their weapons. They don't know where he is. They don't know where anybody is. They don't even know George Azurdat is a suspect right now. They do know that somebody threw a knife out and this lady had it. That's what they know. How, guys, how do you're looking out a window, you see something. That's how she saw it. There's no other way to do it. What? No. Against him because yeah, that's right. He didn't kill. Yeah, Ryan. He didn't kill anybody, but he's an accomplice because he knew. And once if they find out that he knew something, he's gone. He's it's over. There's no. You're talking about the president of the United States. That's right, Julia. Correct. Okay, back to the book. So now they called in the detectives, the best detective from New York City, to come in and help. They have no proof that anybody did it, except they know that John Wilkes Booth did it. That's all they know so far. The executive branch of the government, Vice President Johnson and the cabinet, had survived the night. No other assassination had occurred. No evading rebel army stormed the Capitol. Secretary Stanton attempted to coordinate the efforts of the local police force, detectives, and the army. Booth and his conspirators had to be caught before they vanished into the deep South, where they would find aid and comfort in the heart of the Confederacy. So Stanton knows that we got to catch this guy before he gets into the South. Because if he gets to the South, they're going to hide him, and we're never going to find him. So we have to find him immediately. We have to find him quickly. And where is he? He's at a farm in Maryland. At the farm, Dr. Mudd's wife, Frances, rose early, called for her servants to prepare breakfast. David Harold walked downstairs and joined the Mudds for breakfast, while a servant carried breakfast upstairs for Booth. Booth, his mind and body still exhausted from his great day, stayed in bed. He was too far from Washington to hear the ringing bells of the city's churches tolling in the mountains. In the morning, mountains. As he made casual conversation at the breakfast table, Harold appeared unaware of the danger he faced. He was running for his life, but he seemed to the Mudds not to have a care in the world. He asked for a razor so that he could shave, and asked Dr. Mudd if he would make a pair of crutches for Booth. Mudd fashioned a crude pair out of a piece of plank and sent them up to Booth. There was enough eyewitnesses, Bobby, that saw John Wilkes Booth do it. There was eyewitnesses that saw it. There was all the people at the theater that saw him jump down on stage and scream death to tyrants and then escape. So they know that it was him. As he made conversation at the breakfast table, by 8 o'clock a.m., George Azodat had walked to Georgetown. On the way to his cousin's house, he showed up at Matthews and Company's store and paid a call on an acquaintance. He tried to raise some money, first by selling his watch, then by using his revolver as collateral for a $10 loan. Azodat left the store with the money and continued his journey. He would leave Washington. He knew a place where he thought he would be safe. So George Azodat, he's on the run too. He knows Lincoln was killed. Booth had said, no matter what you say, you're gonna be blamed because I'm sending a letter to the newspaper telling who was involved. So you're gonna be guilty. So you better kill Johnson. He didn't kill Johnson, but he's still scared that he's gonna get caught. So he knows he has to leave Washington. Ryan, how long does it take for a broken ankle to heal? 12 hours? He's gonna have a bad ankle, hint, hint, for the rest of his life. At the executive mansion, the soldiers carried the president's body in its temporary coffin to the second floor for an autopsy. Cutting open Abraham Lincoln's brain and body served little scientific purpose. The surgeons already knew what had killed him, a single bullet through the brain. They hid their morbid curiosity behind the shield of scientific investigation. One surgeon reached for his saws and knives while the others watched, and they wanted the bullet. The nation could hardly bury its father, Abraham, with a lead ball lodged in his brain. So they have to get the bullet out of his brain. They don't want to bury the president with the bullet in his brain. And honestly, they want the bullet for historical purposes as well. They cut it out, marked it as evidence, and preserved it for history. His blood, according to a newspaper report, was drained from his corpse by Embala, transferred to glass jars, and preserved. When they were finished, Mary Todd Lincoln sent a request. Please cut off a lock of his hair for her. So she also asked for her own lock of hair, even though no one did it for her. When Dr. Mudd providing advice and assistance, Harold rode to Bryantown to find a buggy or carriage to transport Booth south. When they got within sight of the edge of town, Harold yanked back hard on the reins and brought his horse to a stop. He could not believe what he saw. Several hundred yards ahead, mounted men wearing a uniform. Harold requested, Yankee cavalry, manhunters. So that 7-hour gap that he had, they slept. And guess what happened to that gap? It's closed. David Harold went into town to get some supplies to do the escape that night from Mudd's house on the darkness. And as he went into town, he saw the military. The only problem is the military is not looking for David Harold. They don't know who David Harold is. So he has nothing to hide right now. He's innocent. If it was John Wilkes Booth there would have been a lot of trouble for John Wilkes Booth. But Booth is hiding out at the house still. David Harold went to get to the supplies, and he sees the cavalry in town. They took everything. They took his whole blood, Julia. They had blood, his blood in bottles. They kept everything about Lincoln. They kept it all. I don't know why, Christian, not sure why anybody took care of her. Didn't take care of her. Nobody really liked Mary Todd Lincoln. A lot of people thought she was a little crazy. Here we go. Harold had just spotted the 13th New York Cavalry. Lieutenant Dana had led his troops into Bryantown, a well-known place of Confederate intrigue, commanded the tavern, and occupied the town. Dana intended to establish a command center there, and from Bryantown launched cavalry patrols through the surrounding countryside in pursuit of Lincoln and Seward's assassins. They were just a few miles from Mudd's farm. This was the closest two pursuers had gotten to Booth since the assassination. Harold made a quick decision to get out of Bryantown before he could be spotted by the cavalry. He told Mudd he didn't need a carriage after all. Booth could still ride a horse. Mudd was puzzled by the sudden change in plan, as he had not yet told Booth he was Lincoln's assassin. Mudd continued into Bryantown at a relaxed pace, just as he had done on countless Saturday afternoons. He went about his business, buying supplies, greeting friends and neighbors he passed in the streets. But a strange, wild atmosphere hung over Bryantown. The cavalrymen's faces were angry. Mudd wondered what happened. Then someone blurted it out. So Mudd is now in town. Harold left and said, I don't need the supplies. I'm out of here. Mudd went back into town. He sees the soldiers, and he sees that they're angry. And now he finds out why they're angry. Remember, we're assuming that Mudd knew Booth, but did not know Booth killed Lincoln, that nobody told him yet. We're assuming that because nobody really knows. They are occupying Maryland at this point, Bobby, but Maryland's huge. You don't just shut down a whole town with the army. You can't do it. They're shutting down a little bit of areas of where they think he would be. Mudd won, okay. He went about his... The cavalrymen's faces were angry. Mudd wondered what had happened. Then someone blurted it out. Abraham Lincoln had been assassinated in Washington last night. He died early this morning. The cavalry is here in pursuit of the assassin who escaped. Detectives and soldiers were searching the Maryland countryside, hunting for the murderer. Most astonishing of all was who had done it. It was the actor, John Wilkes Booth. So for the first time, Mudd hears that John Wilkes Booth killed Lincoln. He has Lincoln at his house, and he has Booth at his house, right? He knows this. What should he do right now? What should he do right now? If you're Mudd, you hear that Lincoln was killed by Booth. What should you do? I'll wait for your answers. I'll take a sip. If you're Mudd, what do you do? Yes, Julia. Yes, Julia. Yes, Julia. Run. Dean, if I run, I look guilty. Mudd says I'm not guilty of anything. Booth came to my house. I fixed his ankle. I didn't know he killed anybody. Christian, he's already part of it, bud. He's already part of it. Tell the soldiers is the answer. Imagine if you're Samuel Mudd, right? If you're Samuel Mudd, this back scratcher is not good. If you're Samuel Mudd, you have Booth at your house. You hear that Booth killed Lincoln. You see the soldiers. If he told the soldiers right there, listen, guys, I got John Wilkes Booth staying at my house right now. Let's go get him. Samuel Mudd is going to be a hero. Samuel Mudd would have been a hero right then and there. He don't do it, though, guys. He don't do it. Mudd remained calm and did not betray the secret known. At that moment, to him alone, America's most wanted man was hiding in a farmhouse less than 5 miles away. He did not tell a soul. So now, guilty. Guilty. Harold rode to the farm to warn Booth. When he arrived, Booth was still in bed, but he wouldn't be for long. The cavalry is here, Harold warned. They are just down the road in Bryantown. It was around 3:00 p.m., Saturday, April 15th, and Booth was in grave danger. Only Samuel Mudd stood between him and disaster. Mudd had the power to end the manhunt for Lincoln's killer that afternoon. All he had to do was tell the soldiers that John Wilkes Booth and his accomplices were hiding at his farm. He could tell them Booth had a broken leg. He cannot run away. He could take them to Booth right now. All he had to do was tell them. And Dr. Samuel A. Mudd would become instantly a hero. Booth faced a difficult choice of what to do next. If the doctor had betrayed him to the troops in Bryantown, Booth was a dead man. If they did not kill him on the spot at Mudd's farm, then they would escort the captured prey back to Washington for a hanging. Instead of fleeing the farm immediately, they waited for the doctor to return. Now let me ask you something. Another question. If you're Booth and Harold, and you know the cavalry's there, and you know Mudd is there, and you know Mudd knows you're there at your house, at his house, would you have just ran away then? Would you have trusted Mudd not to give up the secret? I would have been scared. I would have left. I would have been gone. I'm not going to put my life in the hands of Dr. Mudd. Could get money, but the hero got not show. He blew it. Dr. Mudd blew it, but he didn't want to betray John Wilkes Booth for some reason. Me, I would have left. I would have ran away. Should have turned him in, Ava. I agree. After 6:00 p.m., Mudd finally, 3 hours later, they waited. After 6:00 p.m., Mudd finally rode down the main road and made the turn toward the farm. He was alone and brought no cavalry. Booth's judgment of Mudd's character had been correct. He had not betrayed him. Mudd could not hide his distress. He ordered Booth and Harold to leave his farm at once. Ignoring Mudd's anger, Booth focused on the priceless news the doctor had brought back from Bryantown. The president was dead. Booth loved to hear it. He was so excited that he had succeeded. And the fame was all his. Less than 24 hours after the assassination, Dr. Mudd had given Booth the first confirmation that he had killed Lincoln. Booth might rejoice at the news of the tyrant's death, but Mudd was angry and afraid. By coming there, Booth had placed Mudd and his entire family in grave danger. Yes, Mudd had agreed to help Booth with the kidnapping of Abraham Lincoln 6 months ago, but no one had consulted him about murder. By offering Booth his hospitality and help, he unknowingly made himself an accomplice in the most shocking crime in all of American history, the murder of the President of the United States. Mudd continued to insist that Booth and Harold leave his farm at once. You must leave now. You are not welcome here any longer. But he was sympathetic to the assassin situation. He was no fan of Abraham Lincoln, the Union. Booth may have involved him and abused his hospitality, but not enough to make Mudd betray him. Mudd finally agreed that as long as he left immediately, he would still help the assassin. Mudd is on the South Side. He lives in a state that belonged to the Union, but Mudd is against Lincoln, and he's against the South. But the war's over, guys. There's only one now. So Mudd really put his whole life in danger for nothing. Booth, if he had just given Booth up, he would have been fine. He could have lived his life very happily. So anyway, he decided, listen, I want you to leave now, but I will help you. I will still help you, Mudd says to them. I will not report you to Bryantown and tell him where you are. He would hold his tongue and allow Booth a head start. If the soldiers came to question him, he would say only that two strangers in the middle of the night came seeking medical assistance and stopped briefly at his farm. Then he would send the manhunters in the wrong direction. This is what Mudd tells them. Listen, I'll tell them that you were here, but I'm going to tell them that you went in a different direction. That'll give you a little time to get away, to get to the South. Mudd gave Booth the names of two trustworthy, loyal Confederate operatives, William Buttles and Captain Samuel Cox. Then Mudd explained the route to the next stop on their underground rebel railroad. They must travel southeast in a wide arc to avoid the troops in Bryantown. About 2 miles south, they would find the Birtles place. Cox's farm was several miles further southwest, and from there, they would be close to the Potomac River. Mudd also gave Booth the name of a doctor on the Virginia side in case his leg continued to trouble him. David helped Booth climb onto his horse, handed him the crude crutches Mudd had made for him. Mudd, relieved by their leaving, watched them ride off until they vanished from sight. It was now 7:00 p.m., 15 hours since the assassins had arrived at Mudd's door, and just under 20 hours since John Wilkes Booth had shot the president. As dusk faded to dark, Booth and Herold continued south, careful to watch for signs of cavalry. The pair had Long's night right ahead of them, but they had survived the first day undetected. Although Dr. Mudd had shown Booth the route they must take, Booth and Herold got lost. They were fortunate to come upon a local man named Oswell Swan, half black, half Pascani, who for $7 agreed to take them directly to Captain Cox's place. Oswell Swan earned his pay that night. He guided them safely through the swamps with his muck, snakes, and wild, overgrown vegetation to the doorstep of Captain Samuel Cox. It was after midnight, April 16th, Easter Sunday. That's the chapter. Okay, so recap. Booth, Herold at the farm, Samuel Mudd's. Cavalry caught up. George Azardot threw a knife away. Got seen by somebody in a window. They have it. John Surratt, fearing that he's going to be connected to it, flees New York, flees Canada, and ends up in Italy in the Pope's army. That's what's going on with that. David Herold and Samuel Mudd wake up in the morning and they go to Bryantown, like the main town. Like you guys go on the Portion Road, headed over to by the Wendy's over there. They're going there to get some supplies. He needs a carriage to transport, John Wilkes Booth, who's injured, right? They see the cavalry. David Herold says, I'm out of here. Samuel Mudd continues his day of shopping. He sees the soldiers, finds out that John Wilkes Booth killed the president. Samuel Mudd doesn't tell the soldiers, leaves, tells John Wilkes Booth and David Herold they have to leave, but he would still help them. He would not tell anybody where they are. And if they do ask him where he was, they would tell me the wrong direction. And most importantly, he gave them people to go to next. He gave him his next safe house. And right now, the next safe house is Samuel Cox. And we're going to find out about this guy on Monday. Any questions, guys? Yeah, you heard Suri, right? she can't help herself. Remember, this is day one. This is day one. He escaped one full day. You guys are all good? All right. You guys have a great weekend. If you have any questions, you know where to get me. You know how to get in touch with me. And keep reading. That's a good question. We're ready to go on Monday. We'll be done with this book by soon. We'll leave you with a picture of, who are you going to get a picture of today? Oh, you want to see? George and David Harold. I'll end you with. We got David Harold, George Azardot. Those are two of the players involved. This was the guy that he's with right now. This was the guy that was supposed to go after Johnson and didn't do it. So that's a little reflection of these real people. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed it. And I'll talk to you later. All my love, have a great weekend.